It's 6:30, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to our council meeting, Bienvenue à l'Union Conseil. We respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered on the homelands of the Anishinaabe people, on the traditional territory of the Nipissing, Tamagami, and Dulkis First Nations. Covered by Robinson-Huron Treaty, we honor and recognize their historic connection to the land and value their significant contributions in shaping and strengthening our communities. Nous soulignons respectueusement que nous sommes réunis sur le territoire désigné dans le traité Robinson-Huron, territoire traditionnel du peuple Anishinaabe et particulièrement des Premières Nations Nipissing, Tamagami et Dulkis. Nous honorons leur lien historique avec cet endroit et nous apprécions leur contribution significative à nos communautés. Nous sommes reconnaissants d'être réunis ici aujourd'hui. If I may ask members of council and staff to provide a few moments of silence as tribute, homage, to Mr. Charlie Lang, who passed away recently. Mr. Lang was well known to West Nipissing for his contribution towards many events within West Nipissing. Well known for the fiddle and step dance competition that took place for more than 10 years. Founder as well for many other events that were coordinated in West Nipissing. The Parade of Lights, Save Kids Halloween, the truck show, and so on. So if we can just provide a few moments of silence in recognition to all his good deed to West Nipissing, and as a gesture of appreciation for his family, his wife, and his children. Thank you. Merci. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest? I will disclose a conflict for 9.8, a request for exemption from noise bylaw, and will proceed in completing the required conflict of declaration of conflict and submit it to the clerk. Are there any others? Hearing none. Is there a mover and a seconder to approve the addendum? Conseil Norm, Conseil Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Laverche and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that the addendum to the meeting of council held on July the 12th, 2022 be approved as presented.
Any objections? Aucune objection? Hearing none, carried, adopté. Mover and a seconder for adopting the agenda. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the agenda for the meeting of council held on July the 12th, 2022 be approved as presented.
Any objections? Aucune objection? Hearing none, carried, adopté. We have no delegation and petition. Nous avons aucune délégation pétition. Nous procédons avec comité. We proceed with committee. And the first committee is general government. Le premier comité à l'ordre du jour est gouvernement général. And I'll pass it on to the chair.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Il y a 4 items sur l'ordre du jour ce soir. We'll start with the first one, which is a request for support for private agricultural event in Labine. And we received a letter date June 15 from Madame, I'm trying to find Chantal Lowington. And the 2 events are to happen. It's on the first one is August the 19th, 2022, and the second one is August 2021. First one is an appreciation dinner taking place in Darling Farm. And the second one is, I'm trying to find the information, oh my God, somebody's going to help me with that. Can you, Madame Mayor, read the first sentence?
The Equestrian Fall Fair.
Okay, so they're requesting in kind, and there's a list attached to the request. So who from staff can be talking about that, or what? I think maybe probably Mr. Stefan. That you can talk about that, or Madame Alicia.
I can, through you, Madam Chair. Council's got the same information we do. It's a letter of request. They're asking for several items. One is a sponsorship in providing, I believe, meals for some of the attendees at a total value of $1,125. They're also asking municipalities' contribution through in-kind or material donation, and the list is there. I don't need to go through the list. Council's had the documentation. So we leave it to council to provide us with direction and to advise whether council wishes to support this event, either financially or otherwise.
So we'll go around the table, and I will start with Mr. Dwayne.
To compare with others events that we've supported, I would be willing in some way for sure, if and in comparison to what we've done in the past with others, and in kind, I would be willing as well if there's something we can do to. And it does attract many people. I do like that area, and I think this particular group is farmers are doing fairly well in the area, and it's putting us on the map for sure. So I think there is a place for us to offer something with respect to meals or in kind other. I guess there's 2 parts of this, and in kind items for the other part of the letter. So that's my thought. I support it some way.
Okay, Mr. Fisher.
So the concept of the event and I support absolutely. I have a little difficulty here because there's a key word here. This is a private event, private business, and generally speaking, we don't do that. It's a bit of a slippery slope. As a private individual, I can certainly help them out with some of the asks they want. I've got enough small tables and extension cords and that kind of thing as a private citizen. I would help that, but from a municipal point of view, if we do this, anybody can come along, and basically this is a private business, and most of the things we support, generally speaking, they have a non-profit organization wrapped around them. Perhaps if they want to do something like that in future years, then I would certainly lend my support to it, because conceptually I'm okay with it, but I'm not okay with it in this format, if that makes sense to everybody. Thank you.
Merci, Conseiller Fisher. Conseiller Larrabee.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Also, I remember quite a few years back, we had a similar ask from an organization that was Feast on the Farm, and we did contribute contribute toward it on a minimum scale, because at the end of the day, this is private. It's a private enterprise, and so they need to. We did help for the first year to get them set up. So the question would be: is this their first year of doing this event? Would somebody know? I guess not.
Well,
I believe if I may, Madam Chair, I believe the letter does acknowledge that they did host some type of an event. This is their second annual Farmers Appreciation Dinner. I don't know if the equestrian fall fair is their first year, but it appears as though they did hold an appreciation dinner last year.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I would yes, I would support some help. They're asking for loads of dump trucks and whatnot. I think that this I would not be in agreement with. They need to do their business and keep doing it. But as far as helping out, if it's the first time that it's brought to this table, that we do on a minimal contribution like we did with Feast on a Farm, but definitely not get a private business going at the taxpayer's expense. That I cannot agree going full-fledged with all the request. Thank you.
Thank you, conseiller Larrabee. Conseiller Mallette maintenant.
Merci, Madame la Chaise. Yes, I don't agree that there are private individuals that are doing, and I think if we do, we'll create a precedent for anybody can ask for help for the permanent municipality, any group, but if they're not recognized as a group of non-profit, maybe in kind, and we'd have to go through Sean, see if we can, because first of all, go on private property where our own equipment, I'm not sure if we can because we're with our insurance. So no, I don't agree with it. Thank you.
Et conseiller Roberge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I see you're coming from the ag community. Anybody that wants to promote that sector of the municipality, I kind of, support the project. Since it's a new type of venture, it's limited, I guess, on how far we would go. I think I've seen somewhere in the letter that any profit would be kept aside to try and improve next year's activity. So I think maybe they're asking like 15 million. I think that's just too much. I don't know how in the budget how much money we have for this type of venture, as I was not part of the budget process. Personally, I would be maxed out at maybe 5 million. And I see also that the other activity is geared towards the equestrian thing, which is a new in this area, is limited, but there seems to be a demand for that, and it's going to be to make this type of sporting event, promoting it to young children, and I think anything that will promote physical activity to our children, I support, like playground and this thing, and that's another activity. So if we can help them out some way, I know it's limited what we can do. Usually we have some spare, like the old snow fencing. They need that type of temporary fencing. So there might be in our warehouses some equipment. I would support that. That's about my position, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Roberge. Maintenant, Monsieur Villa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think again, this is down, we're going down slippery slope on this one because of the fact that I found that they made the request at the last moment. I do support the agriculture community, but I think the thing is that if we're it would have been nice to have it when we were doing the budget process, and then we would have had we could have had it as one of our budget items. Because all they're doing is basically asking us for the meals and then this in-kind work. That in-kind work is going to put a burden on our staff, and they'll be not stuck, but they'll be working, on an event that they had not planned. So other things will have to be put aside for this. But I do agree with Councillor Roberge that the max would be 5 meals, which could be about $375. Maybe we could round it off to 500, Mr. Roberge, Councillor Roberge. And then the other in kind, I think that we'd have to be very, very cautious, because I wouldn't want this to have an effect on the plan that the municipality has in place right now of getting other things that we've already budgeted for and that we've put in the work plan and people are expecting, such as some things that the downtown area were promised last year and that are in the plans this year. So that's my position, and I'm hats off if they're trying to promote the agriculture area, because we do have a beautiful agriculture area, but I think we should have some limitations.
Thank you, Conseiller Vida. Madame la Mairesse?
With due respect, I don't want to be repeating everything, but the agricultural sector fait partie de l'engin économique de la municipalité de Nipissing-West. I read this email several times, and I saw 2 components to it. One is the Click Fork, which is the online farmers market, which is hosted on a farm, and they're going to be they market and sell locally grown and produce goods for over 30 farmers, vendors in the area, and they want to do a farmers appreciation dinner. That, to me, is a broad sector because it affects farmers that are part of this network, and you want to keep this network vibrant and sustainable for years to come. I would definitely support a monetary contribution for that event, and ensuring that the municipality is also a sponsor. And if we can help with promoting the event, that would also be beneficial. The equestrian fall fair, I believe in the facility and the service that it provides. However, it's a private venue. It's and what they're asking is a lot of work to be done on private property, and I think we may have issues with that for liability. But what I've heard, if there's anything that they need, that we may have an inventory like snow fence to ease it out for them, I would have no problem with it. But I would have serious concerns that we dispatch our resources to go work on private property when we don't even do it for water and sewer. There's a lot of restrictions with that, and I'm a little bit hesitant. I know it's called a fair, but it's a fair on a private property owned specifically by operators, and it's to their benefit. But if we can provide them in kind, promoting, helping out with flyers, the design, I'd say it would be a win-win situation.
Well, so far, I got 3 no's. I got 1 definitely yes, and I have 1, 2 that said yes or no. So I really don't know how to go about that. I do. What is my turn?
Madam Chair, can I just make a further comment?
Okay.
So just in line with what Councillor Roberge was saying about the statement that the money is going to go back into the, well, I'm reading that sentence, and this is my difficulty with it. Like it does say, should either of our business make profit from the aforementioned events, if any, it will be reinvested in our organizations in order to remain viable for the community years to come. I would have no difficulty with this. In fact, I would outright support it if they did come and this was in some kind of umbrella nonprofit organization and we could prove that. But there is nothing in that statement that says they're not pocketing that money as private individuals. It's just it's just literally on good faith. And this is my disagreement with it. Thank you.
So what you're saying, you just adding some things to say no. Why are you saying no? There's no change.
I was just clarifying what Councillor Roberge had said about the reinvestment of the money, and my interpretation of that is slightly different than his. That's all.
Okay. Well, so we need to, why don't we start with show of hand who would support giving, I don't know, like I heard 5 meals, $500.
It's 2 events, so why don't you break it down? Event number 1 and event number 2.
Doesn't matter, it's $250 each then or $500?
No.
Okay, okay. Who's supporting event number 1 with $500? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So who's supporting the second one, which is that name that I cannot say?
Equestrian.
There you go. Who's supporting that one with $500 donation? Okay, so that's done. So now we're going to go with the in-kind. I do believe and I do support what Madame Mayor said, that doing work on private property could be putting the municipality in liable something, but if there's things we can, they can borrow from us, for example, to help out. I think maybe we could give directive to Mr. Stefan to consult with them and see really what we can maybe loan them, and they could pick it up and bring it back. And do you think it would be feasible? And we did help in the past. I know supporting because we don't want to start supporting for-profit organization, but sometimes we're doing it directly also. So, Mr. Stefan, would you be willing to do that first, because you're the one that's going to have the work on your plate, and then I'll ask council if they are in agreement to for you to communicate with them and see what you can provide, because I think it's a very valuable 2 event that's happening in our own community. Agriculture is very, very important, not just for us. Mr. Stefan, would you be ready to do that if you're directed by council?
Yes, Madam Chair, we can certainly touch base with them and see exactly what their needs are and to see if there's any type of equipment we can lend them. But off looking at the list that they provided, a lot of these items we do not have and we cannot provide, or we cannot build on site as was mentioned. But we'll certainly touch base with them and see if there's anything possible that we can do for or lend them.
Okay, well then now I'll ask council is in agreement to direct Mr. Stefan to have a talk with Madame Chantal regarding the list of in-kind, if there's anything that the municipality can do. And I would ask us if we do the approve that maybe Mr. Stefan, the next meeting, you can come with a list of things and to see what if we agree with, not agree with the list, but to advise us what was provided. Okay. So anybody in favor of giving direction to Mr. Stefan to communicate with Madame Chantal to see if there's anything that the municipality can lend them to try to help them for those special events? Who's in favor of that? So 1, 2, 3, 5. So, okay. So, okay, Monsieur Stefan?
That's clear, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we're going to go to the second one, which is a request for funding for Labine Community Center. Find the page. And it was, the letters dated June 28, 2022. It's a project to replace, projet de remplacement du réservoir de rétention. La lettre est en français. Alors, it's, I don't know even how you translate that in English, that project name, to
Septic.
replace a
Septic system.
well, there you go, that was easy, thank you. So they say that they already had $98,000 that they were able to get to the program, project, I should say. And now they short of, if I understand correctly, the HST. So, but in my book, the HST, they're gonna get it back. You don't get it back when you buy something?
No, only if you're in business or.
Okay, so you have a question, Monsieur Leverge, can I go around? It's more easy.
Oh, okay, go
Not
right
to lose
ahead.
track, okay? Thank you. And Monsieur Dion,
So just to clarify things, the amount, how much?
the project is 97, almost $98,000. They did some fundraising of 98,000, where there is a shortfall of, for the,
14,000.
14,000.
14,000.
Yeah.
Okay,
14,680.
okay.
Okay.
So I thought I'd pay the second page.
You know what? I like the community. I like any community in West Nipissing. If there's anything we can do for living, yeah, let's do something. They're part of the community and this, the place that they talk of, the community center is utilized by the community for raising funds. They've had 2 bad years with COVID. They weren't able to do anything. If there's something we can do to help them with monetarily, yes, I agree. They're part of us. They're part of us.
Okay, Monsieur Fisher now.
So in principle, I agree with this is community center, very important. And I agree that we should be willing to help them out. The one caveat I have this is I think we should pay at the end so they get the system done. Perhaps, perhaps it comes in under budget, so we don't just write them a check for $14,697, and perhaps they can get it under budget, and you only have to write them a check for $11,000 or whatever it is. So I would just like to see a few more numbers and pay at the end, and I'm perfectly well with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Fisher. Conseiller Larrabee maintenant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A committee that manages to raise $97,000 or $98,000 and on their own, whichever way they did it, and they're missing $14,000, I definitely will support this. And like Councillor Fisher said, we get some more info on this, but I'm totally in agreement with this project. It's part of West Nipissing, and it has to be done. That's, for me, that's a no-brainer. Yes, definitely. Thank you.
See, Madame?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I agree, but one question to Mr. Poulin, if I may. We already give them in kind every year, don't we? To the community center?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, we do provide support to Centre Communautaire de la Vigne. We basically assume pretty well every operating cost, from insurance to heating to that type of expenditure. I think Lisa can correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time we had checked, it's around the $40,000 a year mark that we help subsidize the Centre Communautaire de la Vigne on a yearly basis.
Because it's not a municipal asset. But I'm
It's
for
not.
funding when I agree with it. I'm okay. Thank you.
Et Conseiller Roberge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Further to what has been said so far, if my recollection is still good, that building was declared by the municipality back in 2000 something to be a place for emergency use. And we had the electrical system upgraded, so a generator could be run and we could add, provide emergency services to the community. So just on that basis, on plus of what everything that's been mentioned, is that I think the municipality has the financial responsibility to make sure that this building stay operational, because we depend on it greatly to provide security and a place for our residents to go to in case we have a major emergency. Am I right, Madam Mayor?
You are correct.
Okay, so you can see that I fully, and I think it's our duty to support it.
Thank you very much. Very good point, Conseiller Laberge. Madame Savage, Monsieur Rabida, sorry. Conseiller Rabida.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you all know, I'm a staunch supporter of volunteerism. This is volunteerism at its best, and unfortunately, because of the septic system not being viable, they've had a hard time doing this work. So hats off to them. They really went out, got the money, and the shortfall, I think we can incur that. I'm assuming that Mrs. Craddock, that we have the money that we can take it. I'm assuming that. That's sort of a question, and that we can move forward on this. But I do believe it's the right thing to do. And as Mr. Haberge and everybody else had said, it's something that we are more or less committed to.
Merci, Monsieur Conseiller Rabida. Madame la Mairesse?
I definitely concur. That building, that facility is part of our emergency preparedness plan. Twofold, for the fundraising, the donation and subsidies that they got. Basically, the only community center available in Lévis now, c'est le Centre communautaire de Lévis. There's been a merger between le Club d'Âge d'Or, le Club d'Aînés. La bâtisse a été vendue et je crois que les fonds ont été investis avec le Centre communautaire de Lévis. But all this to say, we already invest money to ensure that if that building is required as for emergency preparedness, so it would just make sense that we contribute the 15,000. Question to our Director of Corporate Services. That means that since this was not a budgeted line item, we would be able to take the money out of reserve for the contribution. For you, Madam Chair.
So that's an option. You are correct that it was not a budgeted item, and though there is sort of an amounts that usually are used for things like when council approves write-off of hall rentals and things like that. It's substantially reduced the last couple of years, so there's not in there, and it would more likely come from sort of our facilities maintenance budget, and sort of just, you know, it would just be a matter then of juggling the rest of the facilities maintenance budget around whatever number this turned out to be in the end.
Well, I just want to state on record that if we need to adopt a resolution to have the money retrieved from reserve, I would support it at 100% because our budget was approved and planned for the year according to the needs of our buildings. So I don't want a shortfall with what was being planned by staff or other buildings. And if there's a need to do so, I would be willing to support a resolution to ensure that we take the money out of reserve.
So if I may, Madam Chair? Then,
Yes.
Sort of knowing that is a possibility, absolutely, it's a possibility. The time that we would bring that resolution back is when we've actually received the request from CCL saying we would like you to you know, accommodate for $13,942 or whatever it is. When we got that number from CCL, then we could bring a resolution at that time for it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both of you. I definitely agree with it too. I have no issue with that. And so to summarize it, like it's very simple that to wait till the end to make sure, because yes, we don't know what the budget's going to be, and that they bring us a different when they finish a project, and if we need so, well, to take it from the reserve. But don't we have a line for a special project? No?
We
Okay,
do
so
have a
that-
line for special projects, but they don't necessarily are for these types of projects.
Okay. Okay, well, that's concluded, so this is done. Thank you very much. Now, the last one is, not the last one, the number C is request for a sponsorship Chamber of Commerce. The West Nipissing Chamber of Commerce is looking forward for a 2022 golf tournament scheduled for Tuesday, August 25th at the Laurentian Club Golf Club. Fundraising event such, blah, blah, blah. At this time, we're currently seeking local sponsor to help us make our 2022 golf tournament sold out event. We believe these packages are both affordable and provide great value to our contributors. These sponsorship package offer golfing and hospitality for members and guests. The exact detail of each sponsorship is listed below. So if I remember correctly, I think last year, the same request was in front of us, no? Or the year before COVID? Okay, wow. So what did we do at that time? Anybody? I don't remember.
I don't either.
I was going to say throughout the years, we've been providing
Yes.
promotion materials, swags at the municipality instead of providing monetary. That's what we've been doing for quite a few years. And if I may, additionally, I know, well, I answered your question. I'll wait
Okay.
until it's my turn to speak.
Okay, I'll start with Conseiller Duhaime.
Well, the Chamber of Commerce has been I've been part of that for quite some chair on 2 separate occasions. And the chamber itself is vital for the West Nipissing area. If we can do something to help them out, I would certainly like to see something done. And yes, I would do something. I don't know, do what we did in the past for sure. That's what I would suggest, and which I am not sure what it was. I thought we gave some money. I'm not sure. I thought we had a package. Anyway, I would support it in some way.
So I'm gonna wait for to ask a question. Mr. Fisher now.
I believe we do inherently support the Chamber of Commerce. I'm thinking back to just a couple of weeks ago when we had another organization ask us it was NFN, they asked for support on something very similar. And we went the bronze level, and obviously these are different, but it was around the same mark. So I would suggest that I'm willing to support them, and I am willing to support them at the silver package level for $500. Thank you.
Okay, so let me take note. $500. Okay. Now, Monsieur Larrabee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also in agreement to support the chamber for sure. And like Councillor Fisher just mentioned, we could make that contribution of that $500 and would have no problem with that. Thank you.
Conseiller Mallette.
Yes, Madam Chair. Yes, the same thing, the silver package, $500. Okay.
Monsieur Roberge.
I'm debating between money or some packages for but they only want me. Okay, I will go with the money. Bye.
Okay, Monsieur Rabida.
Ditto. Thank you.
Okay. Madame la Mairesse.
I have no objection with majority supports. I just want to ensure that council, we have been very supportive of our local chamber. We have provided them relief with their rent during COVID. I'm not sure what's the monetary value for that, but whatever council decides, I don't have any objections. I know that in the past it was goods that we were providing, but If majority says silver, majority says silver.
I also don't have, I would have went with the same as we did, because now next year, even if, well, I'm going to, so, yeah, I will go with the $500 also. So now we getting down to number D, which is council review of that word.
Remuneration.
Thank you very much. So Mr. Fisher submitted the request, so I'll ask Mr. Fisher to talk about it, and we can have a discussion after.
Certainly. So this is not for us. This is for review for the next council. I did do quite a bit of detailed work on it, and there's some studies and documentation. I pulled some paragraphs with the full links that are in the documentation. Basically, you know, ideally, I'd like to see it done before the election, the nominations for election close, so that you know, perhaps it might encourage people to like widen the field for elections. You know, basically, you want younger people, you want new people, you know, people with young families, then remuneration is an important factor. I don't believe that ours have been looked at in any significant way for perhaps a decade. And you know, it's very awkward for politicians to give themselves a raise. So this is for the next group coming in. And all I'm asking for is staff go away, sort of do a comparison. There is a comparison chart from places that are fairly local, and actually many of them are much smaller than us, and come back with a recommendation. And hopefully we would adopt that for the next group of people. And that's my explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll go back to Monsieur Duin, Conseiller Duin.
I don't object to it. You know, why not? In essence, why not? It's, I would consider it as well.
Okay, Conseiller letter B.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also in agreement with this review, yes.
Okay, Conseiller Mallette,
Yes, I'm okay.
Conseiller Robert.
First of all, before I comment to that, through you, Madam Chair, I will staff with, you know, preparing for the election, all the workload they have. Do they have time to work on this project now? And maybe we can ask them if they're comfortable putting something together for council or not.
So I will ask Madame Marisha what she thinks about it, because probably, I don't know if it would be you doing it or.
Yeah, and certainly Councilor Roberge, I appreciate the sentiment. I have seen some work that other councils have done. I might be able to steal some of their work as a starting point for things. Yeah, we can take it on. I don't know if we'll come back to you in August or September, but we can certainly take a look and bring something back to council. And if it looks like it's going to be too big a task, then we'll let you know.
So, okay, I would then support that they prepare the report for maybe the September meeting, so they have a bit of that. Because I believe that, Madam Chair, that we're looking at that is for the next council.
Yeah.
So we're not, so
Yeah,
I'll support it if the report is available without straining staff by September.
Okay, Monsieur Rubito.
Yeah, I support the idea in principle, and what I hope that'll happen is that staff does come back with options, and that we can look at the options. However, there's no commitment on this council's point right now to provide a raise for next year's council. But in principle, I think it's a good idea, but I would still want to see some options when it does come back and give us some comparables to our population. So yeah, I like the review, but I want to see what options when it comes back. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I have a difference in opinion. I don't support it. I'll state why I don't support it. I don't think that we should be entertaining a new project. We already have a lot of pending issues that we're trying to get caught up and that are not put under general government that needs to come forward. We have studies that have been done that haven't been provided to council. We have other pending issues. And at the same time, we would ask staff to do this, come back, we would approve it for the next council, and we don't even know what the next council is going to decide. And when we say volunteers, I don't think people run for council for money. They run for council because they want to make a positive difference in their communities. And at the end, when you see a project to look at remuneration review, I think that the next council probably will have learned or acquired knowledge of this council for the non-meetings and maintaining or honorarium for the non-meetings. Sorry for sounding negative, but those are the reasons why I cannot endorse asking staff to conduct research and for that research to come back to council when we have other pending issues that we need to put closure to before the end of our term.
Madam Maris, I will talk for myself. In my opinion, when I read that, I really felt the same. I mean, to bring that back. And I mean, when we say for other council, if I would be a guarantee maybe that 100% that none of us will be presenting, putting our name, then I will maybe thought about it getting a report. But I mean, it's a shame with all the meeting that we miss and we're telling our people we're going to ask for them to give more money. We don't know what's going to look like. Obviously, it will be a more productive and better council than they have this year. And I have no shame to say that. So I will not support that tonight. And obviously, so far, directive is to give staff. But I mean, it's sad to have staff looking into that. And I find it a lame excuse to use that is for the council because they should decide that. So what about, is there 6 of us that's sitting on this council next year and we're just voting for a raise to receive? I don't think it's up to us. It was not in the past. It decided that new council can decide who can take the flop for it. But to propose that, I don't agree with that. So I will put it to vote. The question will be who wants to direct Councillor Fisher. I mean, will direct the staff. So far, the people majority has said that they want a document done. I just want to make sure about that. So we'll ask the question, who wants to direct the staff to do a report on this and back in September for a vote? Because that's a question of the hour. So it doesn't matter what we're going to say or we're going to the statement, we have all the chance to comment. So who's in favor of that? 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many are we?
You're 8.
Well, then it's defeated. Thank you. So that concludes my my part of my part of this.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
We have another committee, Sewer and Water Committee, and I'll pass it on to the Chair of the Stands Committee, Councillor Dan.
Thank you, Mayor Joanne. This request that this dates back to the period of time when there was an issue with our 2 areas where we have sewer system, dumping stations and water filling stations. It was primarily started with the idea that unfortunately we have issues with having the one on Cursal has a dumping station and a water station because of the safety issues that it's causing. And I just want to highlight the fact that if anybody has been on Corsa lately, you will see that there's been a proliferation of different people using those scooters. In fact, one day I counted 5, one by one, coming from the Chateau area. It's not safe. There's these trailers that are on the side of the road, and essentially what's happening is that it could blur the vision. In fact, I saw one as I was running. One person nearly got hit. So saying that, we had asked staff to go back and look at what we can do with both the water filling and the dumping stations, both the Werner and the Goulart Park. Subsequently, the report came back, and they basically have given us alternatives for the sturgeon one, in as much as that they've identified an area where they feel that there will not be as much traffic, in as much as it won't cause a safety issue. And if you look at the map, it basically is Bridge Street. Bridge Street is a street that runs parallel to the highway that is unpaved and is basically, it abuts on our public works area where we have all our equipment. It has 2 accesses to it. It has an access from Floral Street and an access from the highway 64. So what they're proposing is they're proposing that we move it there, and that we basically, traffic could come in from, if they're coming in from the west, they could turn left on Floral Street up to Bridge Street, and then it'll be on the north side of Bridge Street. And basically what will happen is that it won't cause any safety issues for people walking or people on their scooters. In as much as the water situation, they put a recommendation in place, and everybody's had a chance to look at it. In as much as that, what they're recommending is for an investment, we could have a fee for pay for the water. In as much as that, you know, that the water is paid, waters and sewers are paid for from those who hook up. In as much as the people that live in Sturgeon, I think there's some in Field and there's some in Werner. So what they're looking at is a recommendation on just a recommendation on basically where we're going with that. Did I miss anything, Ms. Craddock?
No, you did very well. Thank you, Councillor Revita.
Now, if there's any questions, you can basically, we'll just do the round table as Councillor Lees did when she chaired her part. So I'll talk, we'll give the first to Yvonne. And Yvonne, it comes out of a combination of public works and sewer and water. So you must be.
Just a point of clarification, we shouldn't be referring to first name. It should be title and name. Conseil Yvonne.
Oh, thank you very much for correcting me, Mayor. You didn't do it for other people, but I thank you for correcting me. Councillor Yvonne.
Thank you, Councillor Dan. This has been a problem we've had in the past for many years with respect to people utilizing waters in our areas and filling up immense or large containers. And people were complaining that, you know, some of them were paying water bills and sewer bills, and yet these people were able to access water without paying. So I am in agreement that something, as you mentioned, I like the location. I'm also in agreement that we install a method to create a fee for water, and we put a system there so that if they want to use the water, they'll have to also obviously pay for it, as well as maybe next to that have an area where they can have a dumping station in that particular area that you've mentioned. So I would be in favor of that. I know there's a cost analysis here. It's a little high. I'm sure we can get it a little lower, but no, I think we should have this here, and then we should have one here, and we should have one in Werner, for sure. I'm totally agreement with that. Something that I've talked to with other councillors before, and I'm sure we can get it cheaper than that, but I'm not going to argue with right now with the cost. But that's something I'd like to see done.
Thank you, Councillor Yvon. Councillor Chris?
So yeah, I'm generally in agreement with it. Again, the one question I would have on this is if we would if we were confident we would have total cost recovery on those metered water things. When we look at, you know, they're quite expensive to put in. How much maintenance are they likely to require? I wouldn't want to see sewer and water because of this go any further in the red. So if I could get some assurance that those units will indeed pay for themselves, I am completely in agreement with this. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Leo. Councillor Rowley, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, there is definitely issues where it is located at this present time. So it does need to be moved to a safer location. The spot is bang on. It's perfect. So yes, I'm in agreement. It's a cost recovery for the water, and so it will be fair to the rest of the residents that are on the system paying for it, and everybody's going to be paying with that system. So I'm totally in agreement with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley. Councillor Millet? Yes.
Councillor
I'm not going to repeat what you said, but I'm totally in agreement. Thank you.
Councillor Norm?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing first, is the Werner site going to be reopened, or are we just doing this central one?
I suggested both sites.
I leave the question to I'll leave the question to answer that to Mrs. Craddock.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So what we're looking at is like a single West Nipissing site. And part of the problem with the Werner site is that even if we went and put controls on, our system still can't support it. And as you're probably aware, you know, we're looking at options for our system and for water delivery to Werner. But with our current system, we simply can't support filling, even if they're paying for it, in the Werner location right now. It would be one of those things that, you know, this would be a West Nipissing site, a one location. If at the point when we're prepared to do the fix on delivering water to Werner, the council of the day wants to look at that issue again, we'd have an idea how this one ran, we'd have an idea of costing, we'd have an idea to look at it again. But right now, you know, even putting this into Werner just doesn't solve our problem in Werner.
Mr. Chair, I'm not comfortable with that. I guess this information comes from the Water and Sewer Department, but that system in Werner did operate for at least 12, if not 15 years. There was never any issue. It did provide a good service. And one thing is, I live in being from the rural area, we don't get this free dust control anymore, because that's what brought it along in the first place, was that people would have reunion in somewhere, whatever it was on the countryside, and then they would use a rural road to empty their tanks. So come Monday morning, you then drive on those roads because you would have a very dirty car. And that's when Mr. Alan Correll, who was the engineer for the community then, did design that system and then got it installed, and it solved all our problem. The issue that came about was that some people were using it to haul water to some other places. I know there was a campground that had 11 trailer, and he was getting all his water there, and that created some controversy in town. But beside that, I think the system was working very good before. So I would like the Water and Sewer Department himself to explain to me what has, maybe Mr. Councilor Rovidia, I guess you're sitting on that board, you would know why, but for the life of me, I cannot figure out. I know they want to improve the water system in Werner, but the quantity, that maybe the quality was not always there, but the quantity was no problem in the past. Do you have an answer for my question? Mr. Chair?
No, I don't have an answer. All I know is the way it was explained to me is it was an issue of quality and quantity. And that there was a pressure on the system and that unfortunately they made a decision that they would eliminate the one in Verner and make it a West Nipissing one on Bridge Street. That's what I was told.
Well, I'll pass that on to somebody else. I will reserve maybe for a further comment.
Okay. Councillor Lees?
Madam Mayor, before me.
Oh, my apologies.
The one in, well, first of all, I do have some questions and I do have comments and responses to the Conseil Nord. Dumping stations. Now, I just want to clarify, we have one at the Cache Bay Tent and Trailer Park before entering the park. We have one in Field, we have one in Sturgeon Falls, and we have one in Verner. Now, do all the dumping stations have access to water? That's a question.
No.
Which one do not, for the public to know?
The ones that do is Verner and Sturgeon.
Okay,
River Valley don't have water.
we didn't even know that there was a dumping station owned by the municipality in River Valley.
It's on municipal land. Yes, it was acquired. It was acquired by the municipality through the MLR when we took over the dumps.
Oh, so when we talk about dumping station, I don't think it was even on the list on the initial report we were given before budget. Now, the one in Verner, like Conseil Norm said, it does not have an effect with the pressure. And the water pressure never decreased in the community of Verner for supplying water at the dumping station. The problem is that we were having people abusing the collection of water. We had farmers that were coming in with bulk tanks to fill it with water, which is treated water paid by the users. Therefore, we were informed to discontinue providing the water until there could be a mechanism identified on how we can get people to pay for the water, control the capacity of the water they are taking. We were told that that would be done for all sites, even the one in Sturgeon Falls. Because at the end of the day, I also drive on Crossol, and in the last 2 weeks, I've seen vehicles pull up there and fill containers of water. And there's no control on the volume of water that they are taking. And there's no cost for that water. And that water is being treated and paid by the users. Now, when we talked about the water and sewer budget, I raised the issue again because there was a memo that had been provided to council saying that for each site, there would be a $2,000 investment as a control mechanism to ensure that the RVs that are using it, or if there's even local citizens, that they would have access to limited water and they would be paying for the water. And on that one report, if I may, Mr. Chair, on that one report, there was also a reference that maybe at the same time, we should consider relocating the one on Crossol. But never did we have a decision to say, A, that we would abolish and close the one on Crossol to relocate it. And again, at water and sewer budget, when the question was raised, I believe by Conseiller Yvon, to see where that was incorporated in the budget, we were told at the time, staff has come up with a better idea. It's not going to have a budgetary impact, and it will come back to council for consideration. So that was only to provide a condensed version for Conseil Norm to understand, and for everyone to understand and to clarify that it was not a pressure issue. It was an abuse of the quantity of water that was being taken at the burner site. And unfortunately, there's not even signage to say what the water is to be used for. Now,
Thank you.
I have a question now, and it's a question pertaining to the report. I really don't understand, A, what's the cost involved? B, when we say that we want a unified or a universe system for West Nipissing, are we going to be closing down the one in River, the one in Field at the Cache Bay Park, and the one in Burner? Is that what's being proposed? So we can have this one site?
If I can clarify my comment earlier, what I was talking about was the water. The dumping station
Okay.
has the same impact.
Well, until when we were promised, and it's been over a year that the water was shut down in Burner, we were told that staff was looking at 2 options on how we can control the water and have a mechanism in place for people to pay the water. And I had residents that had called me and they said that they wanted it maintained. It was good for the economy. There's a lot of people that travel the boundaries of Highway 64 with RVs. And it was to encourage these people to come into our neck of the woods, spend their money in our communities, and also promote the camp operators in the outlying area. So it was a win-win situation. I cannot endorse this report, Mr. Chair, until we get what was being asked a year ago and what was asked at budget. And at the same time, we were reassured at budget for water and sewer that there'd be no cost to the operational budget with what was being proposed by staff. Now we're looking at a proposal of what? I'm not sure, 20,000, maybe up to 40,000. And Verner's going to be treated as a second-class citizen and not be provided water because all of a sudden the rules have changed and I don't know where it changed.
Okay, thank you for your opinion, Madam Mayor. Alyssa, Madam Craddock?
No, and I don't know whether you wanted a response or not to that. But there are 2 proposals, and the one that would meters and makes people pay is the 40,000 plus 10. It's not at all unusual for municipalities to only have one filling station. It's actually not unusual at all for municipalities to not have any dumping or filling stations. So it's not that Verner is being treated as a second-class citizen. And that it doesn't solve. So even if we put in a $50,000 unit in Sturgeon Falls and a $50,000 unit in Verner, it doesn't actually solve the abuse problem because people can just pay and still feel the totes and things like that. And it has been actually a capacity issue. When we have dry summers, our system can't do it in Verner right now. It is still a capacity issue. We just came through our power gen presentation. So 2020 was a good year for water and things like that. But when we have low water, the Verner system does not have the capacity to support this at this time.
If I may, Mr. Chair, in response to
No,
that.
Madam Chair, Madam
So
Mayor,
you
I
are
think
afraid
Madam
for me
Senecal.
to
No,
respond?
I am sorry. Madam Senecal. has
It's
not had
okay.
her chance.
I'll respond after.
Yeah.
Madam Senecal should.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, but I do have some concern also. And the fact remained that talking about water, can somebody say, because I was on council previously for 12, 13 years, never brought to my attention that they run out of water. We had some dry summer. We had a very dry summer last summer. Almost no rain. And it was not working, I guess, so we cannot count that one, right? Yeah, it was working last summer. I do have a problem a big problem having the one on Corsol because it is very dangerous. I went a couple of times and it's amazing. There were, I don't know how many big rig filling out or whatever. So they were what they're supposed to do over there. So I would approve a change there. I think another thing that we got to make sure that if there's a cost, I don't think the resident that paying for water right now should be paying. If they own a RV and they're coming back from traveling, they should have no cost. They're already paying for it. There should be a fee every time that somebody, and that should be in Verner and Sturgeon, and even in River Valley or all that. But River Valley, they don't pay for the water. I don't know where they're getting the water. And Living either, I guess. I don't know where it is. There's 5 right now. So whatever the other one, if they're not paying for the water, but Cashby is paying for their water. So the one that's been using in the trailer park, I think there should be fee there if they want to go and that's very possible. I don't know. And I agree that was not the project that was put on the table and what we're requested at certain meeting. We asked to look into it. There were an issue of abuse. But I mean, we never thought about quantity. We never thought about dryness. We never thought about nothing else about people were abusing, especially in the burner. And I'm pretty sure seeing the traffic in Corsol in the last few weeks since summer start, it's people coming from North Bay turning there. So they're not camping or whatever. They're going through and whatever. So it's used a lot by people all the time. They should be paid, not just us. This, I agree with that. So I would like to. Excuse me.
All right.
I said, I'm sorry, I just cut myself on paper.
Oh.
And I have water here. It's dry.
So are you finished, Councillor Lees?
Well, like I said, I would like to see the report, initial report, bring back and look at it because I don't agree that we're going to close down because the only one existing would be Sturgeon. And that's not fair because Verner is paying for water and Cashby is paying for water. So they should be user fee. And it can be with the technology today. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lees. So now I have a chance to say my comments. And my comments is that my recollection is different from the one of the mayor. From day one, the moving of Corsol Road was on the books. I had brought it up. So had Councillor Duhaime brought it up. It was a safety issue. We were adamant that we had to get it moved because of the issues that it was causing people on that street. And that's my recollection. And I'm pretty sure I'm right on that one because I was harping on the fact of safety. So that's my recollection. We had said that we wanted it moved. And that, I think that the staff did a good job on that. They basically came back with us with a proposal. Perhaps the Verner issue is not solved. Maybe what we can do to move forward, because I think we've taken a lot of time here, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that say yes, that we should move forward. That we should move forward on the Sturgeon one. Let's get that one up and going. Perhaps if we can just get it up and going with, the move, and then we can look at the expenditure of, the control system. Now, the only caveat to that would be, and my comment would go to Mrs. Craddock, is that with this, do you think, in your opinion, and I'm asking you your opinion here, is this cost recovery? Would it be cost recovery, the investment that we make to put in the system where we want to determine how much it costs?
Yeah, and so what we wouldn't be using our sort of per meter cube rate that's in our water bylaw, because that would just be a ridiculous long recovery period. A little bit we don't know because we haven't ever metered any of the other ones. We don't know how much they're used, so we would be making some estimates on what we think in annual usage and kind of the lifespan of a unit like that, and then set the pricing accordingly for these units. Okay,
thank you, Mrs. Craddock. I think let's, if we want to, let's make it, if we want to move this forward, can we please take a vote on who who was,
We're discussing at committee on the subject matter, and I did have a further question and a further comment.
if it's new
Now-
information, yes, Madam Chair,
Well, I'm not
Madam Mayor,
gonna repeat
if
what
new
I
information,
said before.
if it's new
Then
information,
It's gonna be new
if it's new
information.
information, then yes. If it's not, let's not belittle, this has got to move forward. Is
Well,
it new
that
information?
You know, Mr. Chair, this is your opinion. It needs to be moved forward. I would like to see the minutes of where it was stated by this council that A, we will prioritize to move Kosoy. When the issue of Verner came to the table and the water was shut down in Verner, it was brought up, well, maybe at the same time, we can look at the Kosoy site. And that was the direction given to staff. You seem to imply that we had discussions strictly for Kosoy with the exclusion of Verner. I'd like to
That's
see,
That is
see,
true, Madam Mayor.
you know
I
what?
think,
May
you know
I
what,
finish
Mayor?
as chair? Let me finish,
think-
please, without interruption. That is rude.
No,
I-
you're being rude.
I'm not rude. Let me complete my comments. You are making
Very,
assumptions on recollection. My recollection is different, and I do know that each member of council were given a memo where it was a $2,000 investment for a system to control the usage of water. I would love to see the minutes, and I'm asking staff, even before council considers this project, that we review the minutes and identify exactly when did we speak that we would relocate the Sturgeon Falls site and exclude Verner. I'd like to see those minutes.
well, that's your opinion, Madam Mayor, and I think that
Well,
we should move forward. There's 5 people here who want to move forward, Madam Mayor.
Well, you
ask
better
Chair-
count.
Madam Mayor,
Ask your,
don't be rude, Madam. Talking
ask
over me.
members of
That's not
council
rude. That is
who
very
wishes
rude,
to
Madam.
move forward.
Very rude, Madam Mayor, again. So let's vote on it. Let's see what people want to do. Do we move forward on it? Do we, as I basically said, move forward in Sturgeon, see where we can do it, and then we'll look at the Vernon one after. Can I have a show of hands, please? 1, 2, 3, and I can't see anybody in the council chambers. There's nobody voting there?
No,
Okay, so that's defeated. I guess we'll have to bring this back to the table again, and I'll leave it at that.
So, Mr. Chair, may I just intervene?
Yes, sure.
So by council voting this down, this means the dumping station will remain where is next to Our Lady of Solar Schools and next to our Goulart Park area. So just to be clear, traffic will continue. We as staff have discussed this at length. We thought it'd be best for the community to move that dumping station away from residential area, parks and playgrounds, and a school, and put it in a more safe, convenient location off the highway. And that's what was highlighted in the report. So that we're not moving ahead, we're not relocating. The dumping station will remain where it is on Courcelles Road.
That's what it basically said. And I'll let the population, the people that live in that area, and God forbid if we have an accident. The
Mr.
conversation is closed, Madam Mayor. I'll send it back to you for
There are
the
comments.
remainder of the,
You know what? I'll complete an agenda request form to ensure that the water at the dumping stations is brought back to the table and that we are provided the initial report. Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Chair. We move on to planning.
we move on to a 15-minute break, please. Can I request that?
Second,
Thank you.
I'll just let the clerk read the motion. Moved by Councillor Ali, seconded by Councillor Chris for a 15-minute recess.
It is moved by Councillor Lisa Nical and seconded by Councillor Fisher. At approximately 7:50 PM, a motion was tabled for a 15-minute recess.
Are there any objections? Aucune objection? None. Carried. Adopté. So, Mélanie, if you could confirm the time, it's like 7:49.
So,
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Ouvrez la porte. Oui, OK. Oui, c'est bon. Mais ça, il faut pas oublier quand ils doivent socialiser. Ben oui, c'est anyway, c'est pas des. Non. Mais je dois dire, comme today was probably. Peut-être c'est parce que son truck est arrivé dans le cours aujourd'hui, la mienne. Je t'avais dit que, oui, je te l'avais dit qu'il avait acheté un 1940 Ford, so, j'ai pu faire aujourd'hui, oui. So, c'est peut-être pour ça qu'il
Mais
fait
qu'il y a un
le
maudit, va aller voir.
Ouais.
C'est là, là.
C'est peut-être pour ça que.
Va aller voir, for sure.
Je pensais que j'avais dû laisser quelque chose signé. Je pensais quoi? Je pensais que j'avais quelque chose à signer. Okay, I believe that we are at the 15-minute mark. And that we can continue. So under planning, number one, we have a site plan agreement. Is there a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Norm.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor DeBerge. Be it resolved that the mayor and municipal clerk be authorized to sign a site plan agreement with Georges Bruyette for property located at 140 Promenade du Lac, Sturgeon Falls.
I believe that this one issue has been in the works for a long time. So would it be possible as our clerk planner to give us a quick overview regarding this one issue?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This agreement came before the Planning Committee last July, and the request was for a second dwelling on a lot on Promenade du Lac. There were concerns raised both by neighbors and by our own manager of distribution and collection with regard to stormwater. And as a result, the it was recommended that the property be subject to a site plan agreement, and the owner undertook a topographic survey plan as well as had a reference plan prepared in order to supply to grant an easement to the municipality for the existing drainage course on the property over which municipal road water flows. In addition, with the site plan agreement, you'll see there's a requirement for security to be provided by the owner to ensure the completion of all of the works provided and the landscaping that is included in the cost estimate that's attached to the agreement. And this was all of this to address the concerns with regard to the drainage on that property.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments? Conseil Norm?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Yeah, as a member of that planning committee, I visited the property twice, and I confirm what our municipal planner has just mentioned. The landowner has retained the professional services required, like a professional engineer and everything. And yeah, I think he's met all the requirements and all the concerns that were established at the time of the original meeting. And so I have no problem endorsing what Madame Melanie Tam just mentioned, and that we should proceed with the approval of this application.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Conseil Dan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Ducharme, one of the issues that the neighbor presented was about the lot lines. If you look at what he sent us, he seems adamant saying that the lot lines are not correct. Now, can you elaborate?
Through you, Madam Chair, the reference plan that was provided has indicates what it is. I do understand that there are civil issues between the landowners to which I really can't speak regarding their boundaries, but unfortunately that is outside of the authority of this municipality to determine. The boundary that is in question is on the west side of the property. It's away from where the construction is being done. So I really can't speak to the civil issues between the two landowners.
Okay, so it's supplemental to that?
I do know that Mr. Bruyette has undertaken a survey by a professional Ontario land surveyor, which he has presented to us, and we are proceeding on that basis. I can't speak to anything that the other landowner has in his possession because I'm not privy to that.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have any supplemental question, Conseil Dan?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Any further questions? None? Voting on the resolution. Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. Adopté. A mover and a seconder for the zoning bylaw amendment for Conseil Yvon, Conseil Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Manette and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-66 being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands located at 140 Promenade du Lac in Sturgeon Falls from shoreline residential zone to shoreline residential exception zone 12 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. Adopté. Number 3, mover and a seconder for the license agreement. Conseil Yvon, Conseil Alice.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Be it resolved that council proceed to stop up and close a portion of Legault Avenue in River Valley pursuant to the procedures outlined in bylaw 2021-18. And be it further resolved that council, 1, dispose of the lands to Daniel Giroux in accordance with bylaw 2021-18, or enter into a license agreement with Daniel Giroux for the construction and use of an access over the lands. For you, Madam Chair, if I could just provide a bit of background to this.
Yes, please.
This is another matter actually that came before the Committee of Adjustment late at the latter part of 2021. What was being proposed is the landowner owns property which is located off of the unopened portion of Legault Avenue, and I did provide a copy of the sketch in your package. The decision on the severance, the proposed severance was deferred at the time because the access from the proposed unopened road allowance does not qualify as legal access for the purposes of obtaining a building permit. So the owner has come back and has requested a license agreement, which would allow him the ability to build a driveway over the municipal road allowance. However, because it is a road allowance and whether it's open or closed, the municipality cannot enter into an exclusive use agreement over a road allowance unless that road allowance is stopped up and closed. Further, I'm recommending that rather than entering into an agreement which would require renewals and updates and insurance and things like that, I'm recommending that the municipality consider conveying that small piece of land to Mr. Giroux in order to provide him the access that he needs and in order to facilitate his severance, and also unless the municipality has, I don't believe that there's any intentions. We don't own any property beyond that can be developed. So it's essentially a stub of a road allowance that leads nowhere other than to Mr. Giroux's property. So it would be my recommendation that rather than entering into a license agreement, that the municipality would dispose of that piece of land to Mr. Giroux.
Okay, so I'll open the floor for questions or comments, but just a point of clarification. The fact that it's not an open road allowance, are we capable of, is the license agreement replace an easement?
Well, you can't have an easement over
Okay.
because it's a road allowance, exclusive use can't be given to anybody. It's a public road, whether it's open or not.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify. So comments, questions, Conseil Norm?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, me, I would favor definitely that we sell the property, and then we wouldn't have any problem. The only thing is that maybe the applicant should consider that property is 20 meters wide. So that is like a regular width of a street, like 66 feet. And I believe the adjoining property owner part is tractor trailer on it right now. So maybe they could, if the other one wants to buy half of it, 10 meters each would be more than sufficient for a driveway. They both would have a public access and but that is just a suggestion. But I think my main suggestion would be to dispose of it to the applicant with the option if they want to share it. And I believe another councillor wants to speak.
Conseil Chris?
So it is my understanding that that tractor trailer isn't parked there, and that individual actually doesn't. I don't even think that individual lives there anymore. But to elaborate on Noam's point, I agree with Melanie's proposition, and to go further than that, that piece of chunk of land is really of no value to the municipality, and by conferring that, hopefully that piece, the proposed severance, gets developed, and the taxpayer can see benefit in perpetuity, increased tax with that development. So on those grounds, I'd actually say that in this particular case, because it has really no value, we can't build on it, it's a liability, I would even go as far as to say, as long as Mr. Giroux is willing to pay the legal, we should just give it to him. Thank you.
Mr. Conseil Rowley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm also in agreement that we definitely should hand it over to Mr. Giroux, that section of land. It's a small piece of land, and it only helps Mr. Giroux. In this case, the tractor trailer is this gentleman that was using that portion to park is because he used to park at the skating rink, and we have a bylaw stating that we cannot have trucks or trailers parked at where kids are playing. So he decided to bring it at that place, but that young man does not live in River Valley anymore. So the parking issue is no longer an issue. So that land would only help Mr. Giroux to sell his land, to have a developer come in, build a home, and apparently have kids for our school, which would be great asset for River Valley. So I'm definitely in agreement to get, just to hand it over to Mr. Giroux. It's in River Valley, property is not worth a whole lot, and so if Mr. Giroux is willing to have it surveyed, and then we just make it legal, give it to him for $1 or something, just to just to get rid of it. Thank you.
Now, just to our clerk, it's my understanding that the requester, Mr. Giroux, wants this parcel of land, so it could be attached to an existing parcel for a new build. And as soon as that would be done, the plan would be to construct, and I believe it's a relative, and it would be a young family that would move to River Valley. Would that be correct?
I'll be quite frank, Madam Chair, I don't know. I know the intention is to build. I'm not privy to the who and.
Okay. Does he require that parcel of land to be joined to the existing parcel to conform for a building permit for new build?
Well, currently he hasn't got any legal access for a new build.
Okay. So that helps to clarify. Thank you. Conservative?
Well, I forgot my question. I'm sorry, I forgot my question.
Any other comments or questions? There seemed to be the appetite not to go with the licensee agreement.
Okay, it's
Conservative?
coming back to me. As much as I wanted to give to them, I think we're creating a precedent. And even if we let him have it very cheap, I think there should be a price attached to it, because I mean, in West Nipissing, there's a lot of places like River Valley, there's the agents and loop lot. So if we start that, we might have a lot of requests. So if it's assessed, it's not going to be assessed much. And if he wants it like anybody else, I think we should follow what we have in place and treat everybody the same way. It doesn't matter where the lot is situated, that if we don't have a need for it, or we don't, if we sell it to anybody in West Nipissing a lot, is because we don't have a need for it. So that's applied over there. So I don't agree to just give it.
Okay.
It should be assessed.
Okay, so just to give direction to staff, who wants to entertain a licensee agreement, show of hand?
Which means,
What licensee agreement, which that was one option. So I just see one hand. So we're not pursuing a licensee agreement. Who wishes to declare the said parcel surplus?
Great.
Okay, so there's consensus with that. I'll ask the question, who wishes to convey the property free to the responder? And that the not the responder, the requester, and the requester would pay for all legal fees attached. So would be free property, but responsible to pay for the legal fees. Show of hand for that. 1, 2, 3, 4 defeated. So that means we go through the process of the parcel of land to be appraised, and that council agrees for it to be surplus.
Yeah.
So just, so for the bylaw, we are going with option 1, or the resolution, dispose of the lands to Daniel Giroux in accordance with bylaw number 2021-18.
That's correct.
Carry.
Okay, number 4, the road assumption to assume part of Duck Creek Road, mover and a seconder. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Duhay Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-67, being a bylaw to accept, assume, and dedicate lands for public highway purposes, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed. Part of Lot 4, Concession 6, Parts 7 and 8, Plan 36R14830 in the Township of Loudon, being part of the traveled road known as Chemang Duck Creek Road in Loudon.
And that's basically just upkeeping maintenance. Any questions or comments? Any objections? Aucune objection? None. Carried. Adopted. A mover and a seconder to assume part of Cochine Road. Conseiller Norm, Conseiller Yvon.
Is moved by Councillor Berge and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-68, being a bylaw to accept, assume, and dedicate lands for public highway purposes, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed. Part of the west half of Lot 3, Concession 2, Part 1, Plan 36R14841, Township of McPherson, part of the traveled road known as Chemang Cochine Road in Loudon.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None. Carried. Adopted. Resolution to assume part of Michelle Road. Mover and a seconder. Conseiller Norm, Conseiller Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Berge and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-69, being a bylaw to accept, assume, and dedicate lands for public highway purposes, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed. Part of the east half of Lot 5, Concession 5, Part 2, Plan 36R14866, Township McPherson, being part of the traveled road known as Chemin Michel Road in Leving.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None. Carried. Adopted. Next resolution to purchase land 207 Highway 539A, River Valley. Mover and a seconder. Conseiller Rowley, Conseiller Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that the property located at 207 Highway 539A in the River Valley, being roll number 4852130001164000, be declared surplus and staff be directed to dispose of the property to Lise Levan and Mario Martin in accordance with municipal bylaw number 2021-18.
Okay, so on that we have an email dated March 31st by the requester, identifying what they want to purchase. They've provided photos. They've identified the concerns, as far as fire hazard and safety. And we also were provided with a memo from our municipal planner. And I'll just ask our municipal planner just to give us a condensed version of the memo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property was vested in the municipality as a result of a failed tax sale in 2019. So the property went through the sale process and the advertising, and there were no bids. Subsequently, the Director of Corporate Services obtained direction from council to vest the property. So the property is vested in the municipality. The purchaser is in the process of acquiring, the purchaser owns lands 2 doors over. They are in the process of acquiring the piece of crown land that is between this property and their property. And the intention is to purchase from the crown the vacant property and purchase from us this property in order to build a garage. My recommendation would be that any conveyance of this property to the individuals would be conditional upon them acquiring the vacant crown land, and that all of the property be consolidated into one, because these properties are quite small and not capable of sustaining field beds and whatnot on their own. So that would be the only comment that I would have, is that it only be sold as a condition, as a lot addition to their existing holdings, if they are able to acquire the land from the crown in between.
Okay. So the 3 properties would be required for new build.
Yeah.
Conseiller Lise.
Well, my question is, I agree with what Madame, forgot your last name, Mel? It's a long day.
And now it's fine.
Okay. Say, witness, she gave me permission. It will be this, I agree what she was saying, to wait if the crown is going to give the land. And if they do, again, the property should be assessed, and as the standard was we do with the other one. I have no problem with that.
Just a point of clarification, if the property was vested to the municipality, it went for a tax sale, $8,000 were written off. Do we anticipate that the appraisal will be lower than the write-off of taxes, or we don't know at this point?
We don't know at this point. Based on the assessed value, I would assume it probably be a bit higher,
Okay,
but that's up to council to decide.
okay, thank you. Conseil Burley?
Thank you, Madam. I kind of disagree with waiting on selling this property if they were managed to acquire the middle part of it, because this is a separate lot. It was created many years ago. So right now, if you look at the pictures, the buildings have collapsed. It's a safety issue. If we leave it at that, we are incurring cleanup costs, because it does need to be cleaned up, because somebody might get injured if they're accessing this lot. So if we do sell it as is right now, then it would be his responsibility, the new owners, to clean this mess up. And it is a mess, and it's an eyesore. It's right on the highway. People drive by. So I would recommend that we sell it right away, because we're not creating a lot. It is already existing. And there were people living there at the time prior to being picked up for tax sales. So I say it's ours, and there is finally somebody that came forward to purchase it. I would say let's sell it and have it evaluated. And I don't know what it could be worth with the mess that's on there. He's saving us dollars by buying it, so it cannot be sold for much, I don't think. So I would recommend that we sell it right now. And if he manages to acquire the middle property, well, kudos to him. It's best. But right now, this is a liability to the municipality to have it in our name, sitting the way it is now. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseil Burley. Conseil Alice?
Well, you know what, I didn't realize, I thought it was another one, okay? But I agree what Conseiller Rowley said. I thought that that was not the property that I was thinking it was, okay? So I agree that it should be sold right now.
So the question to our planner, if we move forward, declare this, the land, the said land surplus to be able to sell, will that meet the needs of the property owner for a new build, or they still have to pursue the issue with M&R for the other parcel?
Through Madam Chair, they will still have to get the other parcel, because if they cannot have a garage on a standalone lot that's not contiguous with their own property. So they would either have to obtain a zoning amendment to allow an accessory structure without a dwelling on a standalone lot, or perhaps they might just be happy to leave it vacant. I don't know.
And I'm assuming that they are aware of this?
Yeah, they're saying they.
Okay, so I just heard a recommendation that we proceed in declaring the land surplus for the requester if they are interested in purchasing this parcel. And I see a show of hands. Who would support that? We still have a resolution. Okay, so that would be majority that they would agree that we proceed in selling this parcel to the requester, and that we proceed with our normal process.
Resolution's carried.
Are okay with that?
Yep, resolution's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, request to purchase land on Montreal Street. A mover and a seconder. Conseil Yvon, Conseil Norm.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Roberge. Be it resolved that the property located at 130 Montreal Street in Sturgeon Falls, being roll number 4852 030 015 13901, be declared surplus, and that staff be directed to dispose of the said property to John Ball in accordance with municipal bylaw 2021-18. Through you, Madam Chair, I'll do the same and just quickly summarize. This property used to be part of the whole big property that was the public works yard and extended up onto the rock in behind the properties on Imperial Street, or what do we call that street? Highway 64, connecting, whatever that street has multiple names. Anyways, that when the municipality determined in, I believe it was around 20, I've got it in my memo, I can't think of it right now. When we disposed of the property to the school board for the extension and reconstruction of Jeunesse Active, it widowed this little lot. So this lot was no longer, they didn't want it, and it was not part of the, wasn't attached to the public works yard anymore. It's separated. So this is a landlocked piece that's not accessible from anywhere. And it has no, it's not serviceable and is really only of any benefit to an abutting landowner as a lot addition because it has no access.
Okay, so discussion.
So-
Okay, vote.
Agreed. If it's landlocked, we might as well sell it to the one that.
Okay.
Yep.
If, are there any questions or comments? None? Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. Adopté. A mover and a seconder for petition for drainage. Conseil Norm. Need a seconder. Conseil Chris.
It is moved by Councillor LaBerge and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas on July the 12th, 2022, a petition for new drainage works under Section 4.1 of the Drainage Act was received from Kenneth Edwards, registered owner of roll number 48520800010423, being part of Broken Lot 11, Concession 1, Part 2, Plan 36R13757 in the Township of Faulkner, municipally located on Wolseley Bay Road. And whereas the drainage work is required for the drainage of lands being used for agricultural purposes, be it resolved that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality, having considered the petition, hereby agrees to proceed with the proposed drainage works pursuant to the Drainage Act, and be it further resolved that King Smart Associates be appointed pursuant to Section 8.1 of the Act to make an examination of the area requiring drainage and in the municipality of West Nipissing.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? And this drainage, as far as petition, it means everyone that's part of the watershed are going to be conveyed a meeting with the engineer. They're going to be explained what the project is, and they're going to be assessed a certain contribution. And it also works incorporating, even if it's property owners or outlying properties that are within the jurisdiction of another municipality, they're going to be part of this watershed project.
That's
Is
correct.
that correct?
That's
Okay. Okay, no questions, any objections, aucune objection? None, carried, adopté. Okay, mover and a seconder for 510. Conseil Yvon. Conseil Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Duhane and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-74, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands located at 411 and 429 Canal Road in Sturgeon Falls, being lots 11 and 12 on Plan 36M679 from residential 1 to residential 2, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any objections, aucune objection? None, carried, adopté. For 511, mover and a seconder. Conseil Yvon, Conseil Nord.
It is moved by Councillor Duhane and seconded by Councillor LaBerge. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-75, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands located at 12390 Highway 64 in Sturgeon Falls from community facilities CF zone to rural zone RU shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Are there any questions or comments? Conseil Dan. You're on mute, Conseil Dan.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Sham, could you explain why that this is occurring? Because I think the public should be aware what the reasoning is behind it.
Oh, certainly. There was at one time a bell tower located on this a telecommunications tower on this property, which has been removed quite some time ago, and the property was subsequently sold. However, the zoning that went with the land was reflective of the use of the day, which was community facilities because it had infrastructure on it. The intention is to use it to build a residential dwelling, and it needs to be changed because residences are not permitted in the community facility zone.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried, adopté. A mover and a seconder for the next 5.12. Conseiller Lise, Conseiller Bon.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-76, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-45 to rezone certain lands located at 11 Sunny Ridge Road in Verner from RU Rural Zone to RU Exception Zone 10, Rural Exception Zone 10, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Any objections? Aucune objection? None. Carried, adopté. 5.13. Mover and a seconder. Conseiller Norbert, Conseiller Bon.
It is moved by Councillor Laberge and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Whereas a public meeting was held on July 11th for a draft plan approval of a plan of subdivision on property located on Charles Street in Sturgeon Falls, and more particularly described as part of Lot 2, Concession 1 in the Township of Springer, owned by Gaépin Vincent, operating as LGL Properties. And whereas written and public submissions were made and considered by the West Nipissing Planning Advisory Committee on July 11th, 2022. And whereas the West Nipissing Planning Advisory Committee has recommended to Council for the West Nipissing Municipality that the draft plan be approved subject to conditions, and be it therefore resolved that the draft plan of subdivision be granted for subdivision application number SUD 2022-01 made by Gaépin Vincent, operating as LGL Properties for a plan of subdivision located on Charles Street in Sturgeon Falls, and more particularly described as part of Lot 2, Concession 1 in the Township of Springer.
Any questions or comments? Conseiller Norbert.
Your worship, it's just a little comment I think you'll enjoy is that this proposal includes a sidewalk in the project.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, because I was going to say, once the subdivision agreement comes to council, if there's any content within that subdivision agreement, would that be correct? I'm directing the question to our planner, that council would have the opportunity to discuss the subdivision agreement.
Yes, but the as Councillor Norm has indicated, the design does include sidewalk, underground storm drainage, and paving, and all kinds of bells and whistles.
Okay.
It's for 12 residential lots for single family dwelling development.
So it really means that when it comes to council, council is going to be happy with the content of the subdivision agreement. Okay. Conseiller Lise, Conseiller
Well,
Dan.
that's exactly what I want to say, that I will be very, very happy to see that it's been followed and like it should be in any new subdivision in West Nipissing, because it's part of our plan anyways, and I'm all for development in West Nipissing in case somebody knows. Thank you.
Conseiller Dan.
Question through you, Madam Mayor, is to Melanie or Madam Cham. I raised the issue yesterday when we did make the decision that the issue of drainage for the people on Golf Club Road, I just want to restate that and make it publicly known that the drainage is not working properly for some of the people on Goulard Road, and I would hope that this does not make it worse. That's all. So I'd like it for the public record. But I do approve of the project. The project is a real good project, and I think we should be thanking Mr. Vincent for taking this initiative.
Great. Are there any objections? Aucune objection. None. Carried. Approved. So we move on to correspondence and account.
We must-
Oh, sorry, there's one more.
Career property.
Okay, yeah, we have one more, Caveat property, Principal Street, mover and a seconder. Conseiller Lambert, conseiller Brown.
It was moved by Councillor Belge and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-77 being a deeming bylaw to designate lot 30 on plan 36M598 not to be a lot on a registered plan of subdivision shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Are there any questions or comments, Conseiller Lambert?
Yes, Madam Mayor, maybe our municipal planner could explain the purpose of this. It's
Right.
for a nice project, but maybe the other member of council would
Okay.
like to know.
Thank you. I'll direct it to our planner for an overview.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This lot, the proponent is building semi-detached dwellings in the subdivision in Verner that is in front of the arena. And what is being proposed here, the middle lot line, which they would like to use as the line for the party wall, the dividing line between the two, was originally registered on a bit of a slant. So they want to straighten that out so that the house will sit on a directly parallel to the street line. But in order to do so, have to split one of the lots and add a piece onto the other lot. Because the whole lot is a registered plan of subdivision, it can't be added onto unless its subdivision status is removed. So this will remove the subdivision status to facilitate the lot addition from the abutting property. So they can straighten out the lot line.
And if approved this evening, then it's just a question of legal agreement so they can move forward and focus on new build, new construction.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? None? Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. Adopted. Okay, we move on to correspondence and accounts. A mover and a seconder for the minutes of June 7th. Conseiller Leo. Conseiller Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Millet and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that the minutes of council held on June the 7th, 2022 be adopted as presented.
Are there any questions, comments? Any objections or points of comments? None? Carried. Adopted. Mover and a seconder for council special minutes of June 9th. Conseiller Yvon. Conseiller Norm.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Belge. Be it resolved that the minutes of council held on June the 9th, 2022 be adopted as presented.
The point of procedure, can Conseiller Norm support the motion?
I would think he should abstain.
Pardon, you should abstain.
I think he should abstain.
Yeah, just a formality because
okay.
you were a guest, the candidate. Conseiller Alice will be the seconder.
Getting excited here.
Okay, so the resolution for the special minutes, are there any questions or comments? Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. Adopted. We move on to the June 15th meeting. Over the seconder. Conseiller Leo, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Millet and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that the minutes of council held on June the 15th, 2022 be adopted as presented.
Are there any comments or questions? I just had one comment that it's on page 2. When council approved the amendment to include a provision that candidates may respond in either English or French, I believe that the intent was to ensure that the process would be bilingual for the candidates, that they would be, i.e., asked questions in either English or French. because that was already offered to the candidate that evening. I believe that it was to incorporate the process to be bilingual. Unless someone wishes to correct that.
I'm not sure I understand the comment.
Well, the minutes say that there'd be a provision that candidates may respond in either English or French. They were provided that provision. I believe when Conseiller Denis brought the matter forward was to incorporate the provision for bilingualism to ensure that the process would be bilingual. That if a candidate wanted to have questions asked either in English or in French, that they would have that provision.
That's what the amendment was for, was to, because that's the section that talks about candidates asking questions and responding. So that would be the only place that you could put that provision, would be in the sections that are noted in the amendment.
Okay, I'm just bringing it up because I was under the impression that it was to allow a process that would be bilingual. I thought that was the amendment, but if members are comfortable with how it's worded, I thought it was different.
All right, say that.
It's okay. Like if there's, that was my only comment. Question that I raised. Okay. Conseiller.
I just gotta make a comment on that too. I think the idea behind that was to make sure that, yes, it was said at the beginning, but really, I think it was said as a comment that he did not have the questions only in English because he's not bilingual, blah, blah, blah. I think what wanted to make sure that we know we have a policy, we're a bilingual municipality, but I have to say that it doesn't make much difference sometimes. But that's a personal comment. I think at this point of time, as long as it's noted that, yeah, the process is bilingual, at least they gotta be a reminder that, yes, they can ask question if they want, either in French and English, is a reminder. Because it was stated at the beginning that he even apologized, and I don't blame him, he doesn't speak English, it's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But I guess the question should have been asked before, would you prefer your question in French or in English? Because there, I think when we look at our population, and I think it was, so as long as it's stated there for me, it's a reminder that it's not bilingual, we can ask. So I'm satisfied with that.
Okay. Okay, so there seems to be satisfaction with how it's identified in the minutes. Are there any further questions or comments? Any objections? Aucune objection, none, carried, adopted. We need a mover and a seconder for the June 1st meeting. Conseiller Chris, seconder, show of hands, please.
First,
Conseiller.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Millet. Be it resolved that the minutes of council held on June the 21st, 2022 be adopted as presented.
Questions, comments? Any objections? Aucune objection, none, carried, adopted. Mover and a seconder for the council's special meeting minutes for June 27th. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Neil.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Millet. Be it resolved that the minutes of council held on June the 27th, 2022 be adopted as presented.
Any questions, comments? Any objections or objection? None, carried, adopted. A mover and a seconder for the minutes of the special meeting of June 29. Conseiller Lise, Conseiller Norm.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Laberge. Be it resolved that the minutes of council held on June the 29th, 2022 be adopted as presented.
I would just like to highlight maybe an amendment because at one point I was absent from the meeting because I was disconnected by my telephone and then had to come in person. So, and it was the deputy mayor, Yvonne Duhaime, that chaired that meeting. So there could just be a note added to the minutes to reflect that, because I wasn't at the entire meeting.
Noted.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. Adopté. A mover and a seconder for the various board and committee minutes, West Nipissing Public Library for April and the month of May 2022. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Yvonne.
It was moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following boards and committees be received. West Nipissing Accessibility Advisory Committee, March 24th. West Nipissing Public Library Board, April 13th and May 12th. And Eau Chateau Board of Management, April 27th and May 18th, 2022.
Are there any questions or comments? Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. Adopté. For the next resolution, a mover and a seconder. Conseiller Leclerc. Conseiller Alice.
It is moved by Councillor Laberge and seconded by Councillor Senecal. Be it resolved that the accounts payable disbursement sheets for the months of November and December 2021 and January, February, and March 2022 be received.
Are there any questions or comments pertaining to the disbursements for the month of November up to and including, I believe,
December.
December to the month of September? Okay, for the disbursements, are there any questions? Conseiller Alice?
Well, it's about the memo that we received. Not about the disbursement, so.
Which memo?
Well, the memo that was sent by Madame Alicia.
Oh, okay. Yes, please proceed.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying and you're writing, but you said that I'm hopefully that after July 14, we'll be able to generate the same report to which council is whatever for the remainder of the outstanding period. Like I don't see why we cannot get the, maybe we'll look a little bit different, but I mean, whatever that you paid in a month, I should be able to be done very similar to what we used to have. I did not send your request. I'll be honest, I forgot completely. And when I got those, I reminded, but I know you were we would be talking about it tonight. So hopefully it could be slightly different, but I mean,
I'm happy that you bring that up because with the memo, I was going to identify that the disbursements that we got from the month of November up to current, there's been quite a few changes in the description of the disbursements. And as an example, we can see capital project contractor and the amount of dollars that have been spent. In the past, it was identifying who was the contractor. So you were able to have a better understanding what the capital project was. I've also noticed, like, when we look at leases for photocopiers, as an example, each month there are expenditures. In the past, it would show the facilities that we're paying leases for. And sometimes it would prompt questions, like, as an example, the museum being closed a year and we have the equipment that's being leased there. And the list goes on. And I just find with those changes, personally, it may bring on more questions. And the whole objective is to be effective and efficient. And there, in the past, it was easy to associate the expense exactly to what. So maybe, I don't know if Council A wants to discuss about the proposed change, if they want to revert to what the disbursements were up to the month of October, or go with the proposed change of what's being provided to us.
I do have a question on that.
Councillor Elise, and I'll
So-
pass it on to our Director. of
Just a
Corporate
question,
Services.
I think I know the answer, but I just want to make sure, like those disbursement that we're receiving, those are public information, right? Or wrong?
You're
Any-
receiving them publicly.
No, but this, okay, so, but my question, well, okay, that you answered that, thank you very much. And I knew the answer is because to say the fact that people have the right, and we do have the right to see like, hydro, well, we know that hydro is hydro, it's a contract word from, we don't even contract word from hydro. But I would like to also see, maybe what, if I can ask, Madame Alicia, and if it's council is in agreement with that, is that, you will see the first one to see the change that they're making in the new program, blah, blah, blah. To come back and see what it would look like, and then we can have a discussion on that. I don't think it's no use to discuss it tonight because we don't know, there will be other change, so we might have, is it possible to do that?
Yeah,
Oh.
so, my understanding is that as they do the update, I'm gonna be able to generate the exact same report that we had before. So the report that you have right now, it has the contractors' names, it has the vendors' names. What it doesn't have is that facility part where it identifies if the hydro is attached to the marina or what facility or where the supply is, where it doesn't have that facility part. I am hopeful, they're telling us we can get the exact same report, that they do the update at the end of this week and we'll be back to exactly what you had before.
Okay,
Good.
Okay, thank you.
so that addresses the issue of memo. Are there any specific questions, pertaining to the various disbursements that we got? I had a few, but I had some for the month of November, December, February, and March. So if council is comfortable, what I can do is I can send my list to our Director of Corporate Services and have that information shared at our next meeting. Does that sound feasible?
Doesn't matter.
Okay,
I would say sometime tonight because the time is,
well, okay, I'll ask the question, well, those were, I was just trying to streamline it, okay. I noticed that, for the month of December, we were going to have a $5,000 contractor for the budget site. Here again, I'm bringing up the issue pertaining to governance, and if it's not a non-for-profit committee, it is a contractor. Who's the contractor?
So the living landfill, it is the living landfill that's the contractor. They had an employee and they also had contracts that they paid. You may have noticed just recently an ad for a part-time staff. So when they lost their last employee, we have decided that we will move that one into a municipal one and not go through the board anymore because the board is down to just I think two people. So yeah, so they actually, the Living Landfill Corp, it is a corp. It filed a tax return. It was they had staff that worked for them, and we paid Landfill Corp as the contractor.
Okay, thank you. I noticed that in November, I think it was line 827, 828. There was an amount that was, there were two identical amounts for 168,364. One was highlighted in blue. I wasn't sure if it was just a cancellation of a transaction, the fact that there was a color that was attached to it and it was an identical amount.
Which number beside?
The number of the line on the report is 827 and 828.
Well, that would be quite to find.
Yes, it's actually a duplication. Again, because we've had this funny format right now, there were a few. And so the second line is the one that says gain and loss on disposal is a duplication. It was equipment purchases. That was the original transaction.
Okay. And my final question for November, I noticed that we had disbursements to a legal firm, which is line number 369 to 373. And I wanted to find out if the total cost for this legal firm, if it was related to the appeal for access to industrial land on Bay and Villeneuve.
I don't have that answer for you off the top of my head. Certainly Russell Christie did do that work for us. They do some other things as well, but I don't know whether all of those would be related to that file.
Okay, can I find out at a later date if it was related to the file? Okay, thank you. If I don't hear any other questions for November, for the month of December,
Madame, did you request that you could send that by?
I have no objection.
But yeah, but we can.
Okay, so would council be comfortable that I forward the questions to the Director of Corporate Services and that the information be shared with everyone at our next meeting?
Jason would.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just a show of hands, because I do have other questions. I do, well, Kat, I have no problem. I'll forward my questions to the Director of Corporate Services as long as we get it back at a council meeting for everyone to be on the same page. Okay. So we still have that resolution for disbursements. I hear no further comments, no objections, no objection, carried, adopted. Okay, we move on to unfinished business, notice of motion. And I believe at our last meeting, we started discussing the purchase of land, which was the requester, Mr. Bob Gannett. And I believe that we had not concluded the discussion. And we were at curfew, and then curfew was not extended and we adjourned. So this is the reason why it's still on the agenda for this evening. Mr. Gannett did send an email to all. And if I were to provide a closed note version of the email, is that he identified, did everyone get the email?
Yeah.
Okay, and everyone had the opportunity to read the email?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. And he was sharing to members of council that when he submitted the request for the purchase of land, that that information had been conveyed to the municipality, and that he had spoken with 6 members out of the 8 members of council, making reference that 6 members knew exactly what parcel of land that he was making reference to, and was under the impression that his request had been approved by council, and was surprised that the issue was being reconsidered in October for a different parcel. And the notice of motion came forward by Conseiller Jahan, stating that when discussions were taking place in October, at that October meeting, the question should have been asked if there was a reconsideration of the July decision. Hopefully I'm providing a summary of events. Conseiller Chris.
Oh, So we did discuss this a lot last meeting, and my feeling is that this is a motion to reconsider, and we should just take it to a vote. Thank you.
Well, I don't think that the notice of motion, and Conseiller Jaime is here, is not to reconsider the October decision. What Conseiller Jaime is saying is that at the October meeting should have been a reconsideration, because council made a decision in July, and the minutes clearly identify that council had agreed to sell the land that had been requested by Mr. Gannett. And if the minutes, when I reviewed the minutes of July, the minutes did not ask for staff to seek additional information. It did not ask for more research. It did not state that the matter was being deferred. It stated that council had approved to declare the parcel of land surplus. And there were 6 out of 8 that approved to sell that parcel of land that was requested. So I'm going to direct the question to Conseiller Yvon. Am I summarizing your notice of motion
Yes.
correctly?
Yes, because it was, we were doing one thing and all of a sudden we were doing another thing. There was no motion put in place to do that. So it was only a requisition. And the thing is, Madam Chair, is that we have to deal with this. It's long overdue. We all agreed at that time that we would sell it to him. We went through the process, and then all of a sudden it changed, and there was no motion to move it forward that way. And I think, as Mr. I agreed with Mr. Fisher, that we should vote on it this evening. I would accept selling it to him because of the procedure we had done it beforehand. And in accepting it, the piece of land is only something that the municipality will never use. And the monies that we would gain for that, I certainly want to have that money put back in the dock that's there for repairs. Because it's just time that we deal with it.
Conseiller Notman?
Yes, Your Worship. Well, I've read all the material I could read on this issue. There's quite a bit. And I didn't find anywhere that council had approved a specific piece of land. They had approved selling some land, which is then thing that defined, and I think that's where staff got involved to go and visit the land and provide a report to council. So, but the applicant to assume that is a specific, council did approve a specific piece is not quite what I found in the minutes that I read in all the documentation. There seemed to be 2 opposing definition there, and I think that we're maybe going the wrong route there. It's fine to say in principle we will sell land to accommodate you that we don't need, but then we have to know which piece of land. We're not selling the whole property, just a piece, and I think maybe that's where the confusion arrives. But I think we should first of all, whether we agree it's one piece or the other piece, and take piecemeal, because I'm not questioning that council did not support selling some land. But it's the way it's being presented now that I don't agree with.
Madam Mayor.
Conseiller Yvon?
Madam Mayor, in the minutes of the July 13th, it was showing agreement of the council agreeing on a 6-1 vote. And the letter was from the clerk was acknowledging acceptance of council that was delivered to Mr. Bob Gannett. The council meeting of October 19th, council reversed their decision on July 13th. But it was forwarded to Mr. Gannett, a copy of the agreement.
What he has is handwritten, that's not the
No, but
minutes of the council.
I wrote that because he gave me the official,
Okay,
I have the official papers. Not,
but coming to Conseiller Notman, The email that Mr. Gannett sent to everyone today, identifying the sketch of the property that he wanted to purchase was the information that had been submitted to the municipality, to our CEO. And that's exactly the information that I had been conveyed when he reached out to me. And I believe that he reached out to several members. So when I sat down at the meeting, I knew exactly what Mr. Gannett wanted, and Mr. Gannett had submitted that request for a CEO. And there's a sketch. He provided a sketch. And the issue was the parcel, and there was also the issue of compliance, but we're not dealing with the compliance. It's two different issues between the acquisition of land and the compliance issue. So the minutes don't reflect that the issue is going to come back at a later date with more info of July 13th. The minutes identified council discussed the request from the resident of what the resident wanted to purchase. And the property was already occupied by the gazebo. Council was in agreement, declare it surplus and convey the property as requested. So there was a request. So it seems clear that the request was conveyed. So I see a lot of hands. Conseiller Rowley. Conseiller
Thank you.
Leo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We were explained again last meeting by Monsieur Stéphane, Director of Community Services, that we have bylaws that are forbidding us to sell on the waters. Through you, Madam Mayor, Stéphane, could you please, Monsieur Poulin, could you please explain again the situation that we're looking at?
Well, right now, we're debating the subject matter about the affected parcel of land.
This is why I would like to have Monsieur Poulin explain again, please.
Let's get rid of it.
Well, I can get into it, but Madam Mayor, as I understand it, I believe we went through this at our last meeting. As per your procedural bylaw, I don't believe there should be any discussion on a notice of motion to reconsider. I believe this should just be taken to a vote, so I'm going to refrain from getting into any discussion about this matter.
Conseiller Leo.
Thank you, Madam. Just for clarification, to motion to reconsider, you need 2/3. My question is to the clerk. So you need 2/3 to reconsider. Okay, thank you. So we have to bring it to check.
No, I get that, but I think the confusion was when we ended the conversation at the last meeting was the subject matter of reconsideration. Conseiller Yvon, through his motion, is saying that at the October meeting, when council rehashed the discussion to define a different parcel of land, at that moment, it should have been a reconsideration because we were talking about a different location to declare surplus. That's what Conseiller Yvon was stating.
That's right, Madame Mayor, that's
So-
exactly right.
So what he's saying is really,
It was a notice of motion only.
right,
Well, I think the clerk wants to speak on it.
I'll let our clerk planner speak on the subject matter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify, there was no resolution nor bylaw given at either the July or the October meeting. So there was no decision. There was direction, there was conversation. There was no decision because it cannot be a decision of council without a bylaw or a resolution adopted in order to do that. There was conversation at the July meeting. And again, I'll reiterate and agree with, I can't remember, I think it was Councillor Norm who indicated there was a discussion about selling a piece of land. It was not anything, we did not, at least the staff level had no information or documentation. Had we had it, we would have indicated that what was being proposed was not couldn't meet the bylaws. So council or staff refrained from saying anything at that meeting because we didn't have any information. It was subsequent to that meeting that we gained the information and brought the information back that came back in October, where council gave direction then to go back to the customer with the, or the proponent with the different option. And council was in agreement with the different option at the October meeting.
The email of the resident says that all the information was conveyed to our CEO, and it was our CEO that made the presentation to council. And 6 members voted on the issue.
Well, I'm just wondering, because if they were, it was sent an agreement to sign to purchase a lot.
There was no purchase sale agreement entered into.
Okay, but I saw the copy of the agreement signed, sent by you.
The agreement was for Mr. Gannett or Mrs. Gannett, is the case maybe, to pay any costs associated with there was no agreement to buy land. It was an agreement to cover the costs associated with the purchase.
And Mr. Gannett was informed that council agreed to, had made the decision to sell him the land where the casino was located.
But council made an agreement to sell him a piece of land, madam, not the entire parcel. I just want to be clear on that.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna open I see that there's other people that have their hands up, and I have a difference of opinion, which I'm entitled to based on my decision that I made in July. Conseiller Chris had his hand up, and Conseiller Dan.
So I was just going to agree with what Noam said. I think there is some confusion about what's what. I definitely did not have the package at the time. Whether the CAO or had it or not is irrelevant. It was not in the public domain. Some people had it, others obviously didn't. I did not. Generally speaking, we might in principle agree to sell a piece of land, but it's municipal, it's the taxpayer's property, and we generally decide which piece and that kind of thing. So that is the confusion, and I do think we just need to vote on it. And by the way, this is a notice of motion, and it clearly states, the last statement is the notice of motion is asking for a motion to reconsider. So in effect, it's a motion to reconsider, and it should just be voted on.
Conseiller Dan.
You're on mute.
Thank you, Councilor Rowley. Just want to remind you that as per our procedures, there should be no discussion on the motion for reconsideration. It needs to go to a vote, and I'm strongly recommending that we go to a vote.
You know what? I'm going to call it to a vote. And I still stick behind the minutes that we were given for July that we had approved. And Monsieur Gannett is upset that council reconsidered their decision in October, and is asking why that decision was reconsidered. And Conseiller Yvon, this is your notice of motion. So you know what? Reconsider the second decision that was done in October. Is that what's being asked?
Actually, I did at the time, Madam Mayor, when I brought the motion forward, the notice of motion, I was under the impression that whenever you decide on an issue, you should put a motion to reconsider the decision that was made at the time, and then that's what you vote on. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. It wasn't done that way. I was under the assumption that when we raised our hand, and I remember seeing the hands raised, it was 6-1 that we favored selling that piece of property or land or whatever it was to Mr. Gannett. Okay, and then in October, they came back and changed their mind and decided not to. So let's pass a motion this evening and go from there, Madam Mayor.
So, okay. So I'll call it to a vote based on all the information that has been discussed and based on what we also received by Monsieur Gannett.
Recording vote.
What is the motion?
Just a moment, Councillor Leo is asking to come back, and he was disconnected by mistake. Oh, there he is.
So the notice of motion needs to be voted on. And the
We have it
notice,
stated.
just a second, Councillor Dan. The notice of motion,
Hi.
Councillor Dan, can you refrain unwelcome remarks? Or is it part of your nature to do so against the mayor every time? So please refrain unwelcome remarks. So
Please continue.
I'm
I love
sorry.
the distraction. I was gonna try to give direction to our clerk to be able to put a motion to, for it that there was a request for a recorded vote to make sure that we understand what we're voting on. I believe in fairness to all members of council. So we need to vote on the notice of motion. And the notice of motion brought forward was that Councillor Jaheim believe that the October decision should have been a reconsideration and not just a standard vote like we did. But my understanding is we need to vote on the notice of motion. And if I'm correct with that, there's a request for a recorded vote. So is that, does that give you enough direction, Mileni?
So we're voting on the notice of motion? I didn't read it into the record before we started this conversation.
Okay. Councillor Jaheim explained the purpose of his notice of motion. And his purpose was the fact, the content. He felt that at the October meeting, the decision council made should have been asked for a reconsideration of the July meeting, of the July decision.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Councillor Norm?
So what I'm hearing is, are we making null and void the October motion?
No,
But he's claiming it should have been dealt as a
reconsideration.
and if it was not, then if we say it should have been done different, that means we don't approve, we're canceling year one. Or should we disregard everything
Well,
and take
no,
a vote on the issue period and that's it?
The same thing.
yeah, just put a motion on the issue.
And forget all this notice back and forth and who's notice. Let's look at the merit of the application and that's
It'll be
it.
the
Yeah.
same thing,
Yeah.
the same outcome,
Yeah,
based on the vote.
yeah.
So from what I'm
I'd like
hearing
to,
is what is being proposed is that the original July request is what is being requested to be put back on the floor. So the request of July last year for the property as originally proposed by Mr. Gannett in his correspondence to some members of council last July. That is what's being put on the floor.
Yes.
Madam
Now
Mayor,
I'm
I-
confused. How can we put something else on the floor? We have a notice of motion, it's text, it says what's on the floor. And now we're just changing. I'm completely confused.
No.
procedural bylaws, I don't think allows that.
The Conseil Ball is stating that the July decision is good.
But there's no real motion in Councillor Jahan's notice. His motion is just to discuss it.
Madam Mayor, Madam Maris,
Yes.
I am suggesting and I want to remove that notice of motion
And who?
and move with another motion. I want the notice of motion removed from this agenda. I have a right to do that. But I moved that we sell the land to Mr. Bobby Gannett, period. As
May I?
As per discussion on the meeting of July with, as per discussion of other councillors and what I decided at that time, I moved that the sale be moved forward.
Can I just make a point of order, please? You would be allowed to remove that prior to it hitting the floor. Now it's on the floor. I don't believe you can remove it if you could have done it earlier or at the beginning of the meeting, but I think that thing's hit the floor and I don't think you can remove it. Thank you.
The fact that it was acknowledged and discussed, it becomes now the property of council, so it's no longer strictly their own motion.
Let's vote on the issue then.
It's a reconsideration. It hasn't been a year yet.
You know what, reconsideration of what? Jose Rowley, if that's what you want to vote. I'm trying to have my mindset to this and giving direction to our clerk. My mindset.
If the subject matter is brought back within a year, it's a reconsideration.
Okay, but we are reconsidering what? The sale of July or the sale of October? Because Jose Yvonne is making it clear he
So-
wants July to stand.
So can I maybe help clarify things, Madam Mayor? In October, council agreed to sell a piece of land to Mr. Gannett. In October, council agreed to sell him a specific piece of land, which is the purple square on the graph that was provided to you. So that last decision, we had a direction from council to sell Mr. Gannett that immediate portion right in behind his garage, because no matter what, his gazebo cannot stay where it is. So selling him that extra piece of land would not be useful to him because he can't keep his gazebo on there. And it could potentially hinder parking at that site if we limit the capacity of trucks and trailers to park after they've launched their boats. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and thank you for that clarification. And we've been going that back and forth, just saying that that isn't what the minutes reflect for July, for the month of July, unfortunately. And it doesn't reflect what we received from Mr. Gannett.
Oh.
So I think right now, with the motion, how it's read, we have to vote on it, and there's a request for recorded vote. So I'm not going to try to summarize it. I do know that unfortunately in July, when some members voted, we knew exactly what section of land Mr. Gannett wanted to buy, and he's provided us with historical information.
So
So
what are we voting on right now?
the motion of Jose Yvonne.
As per July decision, that we sell Mr. Gannett as per July decision. When we first talked about it.
Madam Mayor, there was no specific in July. October there was.
I'm so confused. If
My
the
God, what do
July
you mean?
decision, sorry,
What do you mean there's no specifics? It was brought forward by the CAO.
Jose Yvonne, Jose
What do you mean
Yvonne.
no specific?
Okay, Madam Mayor, I'm gonna do the same thing as I did the last time. We're at that point of time that we have to ask if we can.
Jose
Continue.
Alice, you were not provided the floor.
Oh, so, okay, but
Okay.
yes, I can right now because it got,
Jose Alice, please abstain from comments right now. I'm seeking direction from our clerk
won't be able to do it anyway.
to the discussion of what has been taking place.
I am uncertain as to what Councillor Yvonne's notice of
Okay,
motion is asking
so-
for.
So the motion what is asking for is Jose Yvonne is stating that October decision should have been a reconsideration. So we need to vote on that. Well, that's what the motion states.
We're voting
So
on,
Jose Yvonne states that October should have been a reconsideration. Now, people are saying, no, it was not a reconsideration. Some are saying, yes, it was, right? Staff is saying, no, it was not a reconsideration. Some members are saying no, some other people are saying yes. So I'm just trying to get a resolution voted on so we can move on, and there was a request for a recorded vote.
So I'm just reading Councillor James' notice or request to reconsider, and he does stipulate that he's seeking to discuss regarding procedure for reconsideration of the initial decision, which would be the July decision. So if that helps.
That's right. It was only to discuss it to see whether or not a
So I
motion
think-
should
So
have
I
been
think,
brought.
Mel,
forward.
there should be a notice to reconsider the July decision, whether council agrees to having all the facts or not at that time and having that graph that Michiganette provided. I don't think that was provided to council members at that time, but let's just try to put closure on this and
Just for clarity, the question is, does council wish to reconsider the decision of July of last year? Because we are still within the 1 year. So does council wish to reconsider that decision? And a recorded vote is being sought. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Duhaime,
Yes.
Councillor Fisher,
No.
Councillor Larrabee,
No.
Councillor Mallette,
No,
Councillor Ravita.
oops, it's Councillor Laberge first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've got an old form. Councillor Laberge,
Yes.
Councillor Lee Senecal,
Yes.
who am I missing? Councillor Ravita,
No,
Mayor Joanne Savage.
Yes. Yes.
So we have, I've just got to do the math here. We need 2/3. Yes, yes, yes. It's defeated.
Yeah.
So what's the outcome? Sorry.
It's defeated. We
Okay,
need
okay.
2/3 to carry a
Right,
reconsideration.
okay, so
Madam Mayor,
wait.
it's time to put down, it's 9:32. We need to.
Okay, so you are a mover to be able to proceed beyond curfew. Is there a seconder? We need a seconder.
Fisher.
Conseiller Chris,
At approximately 9:32 PM, a motion was tabled to extend the meeting beyond the regular curfew in order to proceed with the agenda.
those in favor?
Extend the meeting.
Wait,
We just.
okay. I just, before proceeding with the adjournment, are there any requests for noise exemption which applies to our next meeting?
There is one that is actually for this, although we voted on the resolution not to extend.
Okay, well, then now, if we're going to be penalizing someone
Yeah.
for an exemption.
I've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 of them that are before our next meeting.
Okay,
Well, I would agree with
so,
that.
you know what, there's already been a vote though, taken up to extend the curfew. So, I just want members to be aware that, a special meeting will need to be called so we can not penalize those
No, I
individuals.
agree with that.
Well, I'd like to put a motion forward to reconsider the situation with that, Mayor. I think we should vote on, instead of wasting our time for a special meeting, I think we should vote on the items that should have been passed this evening
Yeah.
with respect to what they're asking for.
Right.
So I'm putting a motion to reconsider.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we need a seconder,
Norm?
Conseiller Norm, and to reconsider, then we need 2/3.
Just to pass those.
I'll let our clerk read the resolution so it'd be clear on what members are voting on.
So a motion is being tabled by, a motion is being made by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Laberge to reconsider the resolution to extend the meeting in order to deal with 3 noise exemption requests.
The noise bylaw exemptions that apply for the month of July or prior to our next meeting.
Well, there's only 3.
Okay.
Well, if we want.
So it's to deal with the noise exemption bylaws that are required prior to our next meeting. Okay, so I
And
need
no
to,
special meeting.
I need to see a show of hands for the request for reconsideration to deal with these exemption. And there has to be 2/3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
6.
2, 12, 6, carried.
So it is, I need a mover and a seconder.
9.6 were.
Yeah.
Just a second, please. I just want to make sure that. Okay, so 9.6 is exemption request by Ad Palin. And that's for an event that's taken place before our next scheduled meeting. Are there any?
No, that one's not till August the 14th.
I think we should approve all of them.
Yeah, we should now that we've read it.
Let's approve all of it.
Oh, come on, what are we doing here? We're supposed to be following procedures. You said to extend the ones that were going to be looked at now.
Well, we're going to follow procedures and I just want to make sure. So Arbo Palin is in August after we can deal with it at our next meeting.
What date in August?
14th.
Next meeting in August, I
No, no,
believe is
no.
August 9th.
And what date is that one?
I believe it's by August 14th.
Yeah.
Let me put them all back here.
Okay.
Okay. See la fond, that's for a wedding, I believe.
That's September.
That's in September?
Yeah,
Okay, 9.8 is in September.
yeah.
9.9 is in July.
For levy.
Yes.
Yeah. So I need a mover and a seconder.
Conseil Normand, Conseil Alice.
It is moved by Councillor Roberge and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Be it resolved, the council authorizes an exemption of the West Nipissing noise bylaw made by Diane Labbe for an outdoor celebration, including a live band, which will take place at the West Nipissing Fort on Sturgeon Falls on Saturday, July the 30th until 1 a.m.
Why do we provide an exemption when it's taking place at our municipal infrastructure or municipal facility?
Through you, Madam Chair, I did make an inquiry on that, but because the band is going to be outside,
Okay,
not inside, we do require that.
okay, thank you. Any objections? Aucune objection?
No.
Carried, adopted. The next one, I believe, was an addendum that we received for Champagne Road. Is that event taking place prior to August 9th?
Friday.
This Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, so I need a
Or
mover.
Saturday, the 16th. Saturday.
Okay, so it'll be this weekend.
Yeah.
Mover and a seconder, Conseil Yvon, Conseil Alice.
It is moved by Councillor Johann and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Be it resolved, the council authorizes an exemption of the West Nipissing noise bylaw made by Brian Lavoie for an outdoor celebration, including a live band, which will take place at 519 Champagne Road in Sturgeon Falls on Saturday, July 15th from 5 p.m. until 1 a.m. July 16th.
Any objections or objections now? None, carried, adopted. Resolution, a mover and a seconder for the resolution to adjourn. Conseil Normand. I need someone else, Conseil Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Roberge and seconded by Councillor Johann. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-73, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing municipality to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 12th of July 2022, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any objections, open objection, none, carried, adopted.
It is moved by Councillor Roberge and seconded by Councillor Johann. Be it resolved that the meeting of council held on July the 12th be adjourned.
Objections? None, carried, adopted. Au revoir. Good evening.